They were dead last in the league. A laughingstock pass rush. A defense that couldn't get off the field. A franchise that had been talking about building a contender for years while quarterbacks waltzed through their front seven like it was open practice. And then, in one single season, the Atlanta Falcons did something that shocked the entire NFL. They broke a franchise sack record that had stood for nearly 30 years. They became the second most feared pass rush unit in all of professional football. And now, with a draft move that nobody saw coming, a man who almost quit football entirely has been handed a jersey in Atlanta, and the league should be very, very afraid of what is coming next. The Falcons are not rebuilding. They are reloading. And the Anterio Thompson move is just the latest signal that this defense is not done making history. To truly understand what the Atlanta Falcons did in the 2026 NFL Draft, and why the Anterio Thompson move specifically has caught so many people's attention, you have to understand where this franchise was just 2 years ago. Because the contrast is staggering. And the story of how they got from there to here is one of the most fascinating organizational transformations the NFL has seen in this decade. Cast your mind back to the 2024 season. The Atlanta Falcons finished that year with just 31 sacks as a team. 31 in 16 games. That is fewer than 2 sacks per game. It was the second fewest in the entire National Football League. They were, by any objective defensive metric, one of the weakest pass rush units in professional football. The defensive coordinator at the time, Jimmy Lake, had implemented a system that simply was not working. The players weren't producing. The scheme wasn't generating pressure. And opponents knew that if they could just get the ball out of their hands quickly, they could carve up the Falcons' offense all day long because Atlanta's defense was never going to stop anyone anyway. It was a crisis, and the front office knew it. Enter Jeff Ulbrich. Ulbrich is not a newcomer to the NFL. He is a football man who has spent decades in the profession as a player and a coach. He played linebacker in the league for years. He knows the game from the inside out, from the huddle, from the sideline, from the film room. He had served as linebackers coach with the Falcons during the Dan Quinn era from 2015 to 2019, so he had a deep familiarity with the organization, its culture, and its roster. He then spent time as defensive coordinator with the New York Jets under Robert Saleh, and briefly served as interim head coach of the Jets in 2024 after Saleh was fired mid-season. When Atlanta came calling in the offseason of 2025, Ulbrich didn't hesitate. He returned to Flowery Branch on a mission, and what he installed from day one was a philosophy that was the exact opposite of what had come before. Ulbrich wanted to attack. He wanted a pressure. He wanted chaos. He believed that the Falcons had players capable of generating pass rush. They just hadn't been unleashed properly. His system emphasized blitzing at one of the highest rates in the league, creating confusion for offensive lines, and giving his pass rushers one-on-one opportunities to win their individual matchups. Defense is about precision. Veteran safety Jesse Bates III described the Ulbrich philosophy. You got to be able to know, what are we showing? What are we actually playing? What are we trying to get out of these defensive looks? The results were immediate, dramatic, and historic. In 2025, the Atlanta Falcons recorded 57 sacks. 57 in one season. That shattered the previous franchise record of 55, which had been set all the way back in 1997, nearly 30 years earlier. They went from second to last in the league in sacks to second overall. An improvement of that magnitude in a single season is essentially unheard of in NFL history. It requires elite coaching. It requires elite players stepping into their roles. And it requires a culture that demands production from every single man on the roster. What made the 57 sacks even more remarkable was how they got there. Ulbrich's philosophy was pressure by committee, and the numbers proved it. A total of 14 different Falcons players recorded at least one sack in 2025, tied for the most in the entire NFL. This was not a one-man wrecking crew. This was a team, a genuinely deep, dangerous, well-coached defensive unit, eating quarterbacks alive from every angle on every down. But Pierce was not alone. Jalen Walker, another 2025 rookie, taken with the 15th pick in the draft, finished second among all rookies in sacks with 5.5 and ranked 6th out of 115 edge defenders in PFF run defense grade. Xavier Watts, the rookie safety, led all rookies in interceptions with 5 and was tied for the second most picks among all defenders in the league. He was the first defender to record 60-plus tackles and 3-plus interceptions as a rookie since 2017. And Brandon Dorless, a fourth-round pick from a 2024 draft who had seen just 19 defensive snaps under the previous coaching staff, finished the 2025 season with 8.5 sacks. 8.5 sacks from a player who had barely touched the field 12 months earlier. That is the Jeff Ulbrich effect. He found snaps for players that the previous staff had buried, installed them in the right scheme, and watched them produce at an elite level. The 25.5 combined sacks from the defensive tackle group alone told a story. Laquelle London, despite playing just 200 defensive snaps, recorded 5 sacks. Kentavious Street added 2 more. Rook Orhororo, a second-year lineman, continued his development and became one of the more disruptive interior pieces of the unit. And when you factor in contributions from Leonard Floyd on the edge, Caden Ellis at linebacker, who finished second in the league among linebackers with 30 pressures and was one of only 2 NFL players with 100-plus tackles, 10-plus tackles for loss, 3.5-plus sacks, and an interception, you begin to understand the full picture. This was not a fluke. This was a system, a brilliant, attacking, creative system that used every player as a chess piece and maximized each one's individual strengths. And now, heading into 2026, Jeff Ulbrich is back. He signed a new 3-year deal with Atlanta. The continuity is critical. For a defense that had suffered from coordinator turnover for years, the ability to enter a second year in the same scheme with the same players who already know the terminology, the looks, the signals, the calls, is an enormous competitive advantage. Jesse Bates III put it perfectly when he said, "My first 3 years, I had a new defense, a whole new defensive scheme. To be able to be in year 2 in this scheme, I think we can go to a whole other level." He then added something that should send chills through every offensive coordinator in the NFC. He wants to break the franchise interception record in 2026. After breaking the sack record in 2025, Bates is now aiming at the next milestone. This is what elite defensive cultures look like. They don't celebrate and coast. They identify the next target and chase it. Now into this already fearsome defensive ecosystem, into a group that already has the recipe for pressure, chaos, and production. The Atlanta Falcons made a move in the 2026 NFL Draft that most people slept on. A move that flew under the radar, while the football world focused on the bigger names and the higher picks. A move that, in the context of everything this Falcons defense is building toward, makes perfect, powerful sense. With the 208th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, acquired via trade with the Las Vegas Raiders, the Atlanta Falcons selected defensive tackle Anterio Thompson from the University of Washington. Now, most people saw that pick and moved on. 6th round, pick 208. Not a name that was trending, not a prospect that was projected to be a difference maker. But when you pull back the curtain on who Anterio Thompson is and how he got to this moment, the pick immediately becomes one of the most compelling stories of the entire 2026 draft class. Anterio Thompson almost didn't make it. Let that hit you for a second. This is a man who, at the end of his junior year at Hempstead High School in Dubuque, Iowa, was ready to walk away from football entirely. The game that would eventually carry him to the NFL stage in Pittsburgh had become something he was considering leaving behind. The circumstances were hard. The path was unclear. And for a young man without obvious resources or a clear roadmap forward, giving up felt like a reasonable decision. But there was one person who refused to let that happen. His high school head coach, Jeff Horner, refused to accept the idea that Thompson was done. Horner went to work, talking to Thompson, to his teammates, to anyone who would listen, and he got the kid back into the program for his senior year. Thompson went on to earn all-region honors as a defensive tackle in that final high school season. And the rest, the winding, improbable, grinding, beautiful rest, is the story of a man who refused to let his potential go to waste. After high school, Thompson signed with Iowa Western Community College in 2021. He didn't even play in his first season. He sat out as a redshirt, getting acclimated, learning, growing. In 2022, He played in 12 games for the Reavers and became a standout player for the NJCAA Division I national champions. That national championship season opened doors. Thompson moved up to the Power 5, signing with the University of Iowa. In 2023 with the Hawkeyes, he played in 7 games and blocked 2 punts, immediately flashing one of the most underrated and impactful special team skills in all of college football. But Thompson wanted more. He wanted a bigger role. He packed his bags and transferred to Western Michigan for the 2024 season, where he started 12 of 13 games and racked up 34 tackles. His stock was rising. His athleticism was becoming more and more apparent. And when the University of Washington came calling, a program that needed veteran defensive line depth heading into 2025, Thompson made his 4th and final college move, landing in Seattle to play under defensive line coach Jason Kofusi and first-year defensive coordinator Ryan Walters. In Seattle, everything clicked. Thompson played all 13 games for the Huskies in 2025, starting 3 times and finishing with 30 total tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 1.5 sacks. But the numbers on the stat sheet don't tell the full Thompson story. Because what the Falcons fell in love with when they evaluated him on tape wasn't just the production. It was the athleticism, the burst, the power, the ferocity. At his pro day, Thompson ran the 40-yard dash in 4.73 seconds. That number, for a defensive tackle, would have led all combined participants at his position. His 10-yard split of 1.74 seconds was among the best in the class. His broad jump of 9 feet and 6 inches would have tied for second best among combined defensive tackles. He knocked out 30 reps on the bench press. For a man who is listed at 6 feet 4 inches and 310 pounds, those numbers are extraordinary. And his relative athletic score, his RAS, was a 9.38 out of a possible 10. That puts him in the elite tier of athleticism for any player at his position. Falcons general manager Ian Cunningham summarized the evaluation in the clearest terms. He sawed off, powerful, explosive, really good hand strength, good instincts. He plays the brand of ball that our defensive staff looks for. He's powerful. We look forward to bringing him in and helping him add to the group in the run and in the pass game. Defensive line coach Nate Ollie was equally clear about why Thompson was the right fit. Ollie had already helped produce a historic sack season in his first year in Atlanta. He had turned Brandon Dorless from a forgotten 4th-rounder into an 8.5 sack machine. He had maximized the production of Laquelle London in just 200 snaps. And now he had Thompson, a young man with elite physical tools, chip on a shoulder the size of a boulder, and a history of performing under the most challenging circumstances imaginable. What specifically makes Thompson so exciting in the Falcons' one-gap defensive system is his burst off the line of scrimmage. In a one-gap scheme, where each defender is assigned a specific gap and expected to penetrate it aggressively rather than read and react, quickness off the snap is everything. It doesn't matter how big you are or how much you can bench press if you can't consistently beat the offensive lineman to his assignment. And Thompson's first step explosion, validated by both his pro day numbers and multiple plays on film, is the exact trait the Falcons covet. The Athletics' respected draft analyst Dane Brugler described Thompson as a player with upfield quickness, raw strength, and special teams impact that are intriguing qualities that could be further developed. That word, developed, is the key. Thompson is not arriving in Atlanta as a finished product. He is arriving as an athletic powerhouse with a work ethic that has been hardened by 5 years of grinding through 4 different programs, proving himself at every level and never accepting that his journey was over. In Nate Ollie's hands, in Jeff Ulbrich's system, in a defensive culture that just broke a 29-year franchise record, the ceiling on Anterio Thompson is genuinely exciting, and his special teams value alone makes him worth a 6th-round pick. 3 blocked punts in his college career. 3. That is not a coincidence. It is a pattern. It is a player who understands leverage, timing, penetration, and the split-second decision-making that special teams require. In a league where field position can swing games and where blocked punts routinely swing momentum, Thompson's track record in that dimension is immediately valuable. But the Anterio Thompson pick is only one piece of a much larger story. Because the Atlanta Falcons didn't just select one defensive player in this draft. They went on an absolute defensive shopping spree. And the additions they made alongside Thompson have NFL analysts buzzing about what this unit could become in year 2 of the Ulbrich era. Let's walk through the full 2026 Falcons draft class, because each selection tells part of a bigger story about where this franchise is headed. The draft started for Atlanta without a first-round pick, a reality that put them in an unusual position for the opening night. But with the 48th overall pick in the second round, the Falcons did something that stopped every NFL fan in the Southeast in their tracks. They selected cornerback Terrell from Clemson. Terrell, the younger brother of Falcons cornerback A.J. Terrell J. in one moment. One phone call, one name announced on a stage in Pittsburgh. The Atlanta Falcons created one of the most compelling storylines of the entire 2026 draft. Two brothers. From Atlanta. From Westlake High School. Both cornerbacks. Both now wearing the same colors and playing for their hometown team. A.J. Terrell was a former first-round pick for Atlanta, one of the best cornerbacks in franchise history. And now, Avion, who had just completed a standout career at Clemson, where he recorded 125 tackles, 25 pass deflections, and 3 interceptions across 39 games, and was named second-team All-American in 2025, would join his older brother on the same defensive backfield. The PFF analysis of Avion Terrell was emphatic. He earned an elite 83.5 PFF grade in 2025, the highest of any Falcons draft pick. He was ranked 23rd on PFF's overall big board, a first-round talent by their evaluation, and the Falcons got him at pick 48. Multiple analysts called it a flat-out steal. CBS Sports' Chad Reuter specifically noted the value of getting a first-round talent in the second round in Terrell. And the feel-good dimension of the Terrell brothers' story. Two hometown kids, two Falcons cornerbacks, playing together in the city where they grew up, gave Atlanta an immediate marketing moment and locker room energy that money can't buy. With the 79th pick in the third round, the Falcons selected wide receiver Zachariah Branch from Georgia. Branch is a different kind of player, an offensive piece in what was an otherwise defense-heavy draft class. But his fit in the Falcons' offense makes immediate sense. Branch is an explosive playmaker who won the Jet Award in 2023 as the nation's best return specialist, showcasing game-breaking speed and instincts in space. After 2 seasons at USC, he transferred to Georgia for 2025 and posted 81 catches for 811 yards and 6 touchdowns, while also returning kicks and punts at an elite level. His RES score was a sparkling 9.12, reflecting the elite athleticism that makes him dangerous every time he touches the ball. Analysts described him as a difference-making playmaker in the slot and on the perimeter who will immediately add an explosive dimension to an offense that already has star power at multiple positions. Then came a fourth round, and one of the most fascinating defensive chess pieces of the entire draft. With the 134th pick, acquired from the Las Vegas Raiders in Atlanta's first trade of the weekend, the Falcons selected linebacker Kendall Daniels from the University of Oklahoma. Daniels is the kind of player that Jeff Ulbrich dreams about adding to his defense. Listed at 6 feet 5 inches and 242 pounds, he is a former safety who transitioned into a hybrid linebacker safety rusher role. His football IQ is off the charts. He has experience playing multiple positions simultaneously, giving Ulbrich the ability to deploy him in virtually any look without tipping the coverage. Falcons area scout Dante Farnioli described Daniels this way. Versatility speaks for itself. On tape, you see him as a safety, as a linebacker, in the nickel. Whatever you tell him, whatever position you coach him to, that's what he'll be. 5 collegiate seasons, 293 tackles, 31.5 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, 5 interceptions. Coming off a career-best 77.5 PFF grade in 2025, with marks above 75.0 in both run defense and coverage. He is the kind of multidimensional defender that keeps offensive coordinators up at night, trying to figure out where he's going to be lined up on Sunday. Back in the 6th round, Alongside the Anterio Thompson pick, the Falcons added another linebacker with enormous upside in Harold Perkins Jr. from LSU. And this is a name that has a story attached to it. Perkins was once considered a generational talent. As a freshman at LSU, he introduced himself to the entire nation. The Falcon scout described it simply. Harold Perkins, that game as a freshman against Arkansas, that's where he introduced himself to the whole country. That kid is going to be a player, no question. The raw pass rush ability, the explosiveness off the line, the instincts, everything pointed toward Perkins being a top 10 pick. But a devastating ACL injury derailed his junior season, and a long road back from that injury, combined with coaching and scheme changes at LSU, resulted in a player who slid dramatically further than his talent deserved. The Falcons saw the talent through the adversity. In 4 seasons at LSU, Perkins recorded 17 sacks, 220 tackles, 35.5 tackles for loss, 10 pass deflections, and 5 interceptions. His RES score was 8.63, elite athleticism that his injury couldn't erase. And the character evaluation? The Falcons scouting staff was moved by what they found. As Farnioli put it, I think he plays with an incredible amount of perseverance. Despite injuries, despite scheme changes, despite coaching changes, he never made excuses. That is the exact kind of player you want in a locker room that is trying to sustain a championship-level defensive culture. In the 7th round, Atlanta used the final pick of their class on massive Ohio State offensive tackle Ethan Anienwa, listed at 6 feet 6 inches and 333 pounds, with massive arm length and the raw power to develop into legitimate NFL depth behind a Falcons offensive line that returns 4 starters. When you step back and look at the full 2026 Atlanta Falcons draft class through the lens of what this defense is trying to accomplish, a clear picture emerges. They are adding bodies that fit Jeff Ulbrich's attack style system. They are adding athleticism. Their draft class featured multiple prospects with elite RES scores, led by Thompson's 9.38 and Branch's 9.12. They are adding depth at the defensive tackle position, where the 57-sack season was built not on one player, but on a rotation of contributors. They are adding versatile linebackers who can be deployed in creative ways to manufacture confusion for opposing offenses. And they are adding a cornerback who may be the best player in the entire class relative to his draft position. The grade from the analytical community reflected all of this. PFF's recap of the Falcons' draft class highlighted the steal in Avion Terrell, a first-round graded prospect in the 2nd round, and praised the balanced approach of adding defensive upside and offensive playmaking potential. Multiple outlets gave Atlanta AB+ or higher for the class. And the most meaningful endorsement came not from outside analysts, but from inside the building. Jesse Bates III, a veteran safety who has seen defensive talent from the inside for nearly a decade, spoke about what it means to head into year 2 of the Ulbrich era with the same system. The same players improving upon their foundations, and now fresh additions like Thompson, Perkins, Daniels, and Terrell bringing new energy and new capability to the group. Defense is really about precision, Bates said. You got to know what you're showing, what you're actually playing, what you're trying to get out of each look. The second-year understanding of that precision, shared across the entire unit, is what separates good defenses from truly great ones. And the specific context of Anterio Thompson entering this environment is what makes his arrival so significant. Here is a young man who, at the age of 16, was ready to walk away from the game, who was talked back into it by a coach who saw something in him worth fighting for, who spent 5 years grinding through Iowa Western, Iowa, Western Michigan, and Washington, improving at every stop, never settling, never accepting a smaller role than the one he believed he deserved, who showed up at his pro day and ran a 4.7340, posted a 9-6 broad jump, and knocked out 30 reps on the bench press, numbers that would have led or tied at the NFL combine in every category, who posted a 76.0 overall PFF grade in his final college season with solid marks in both run defense and pass rushing, and who has now landed in the most perfectly designed defensive system he could possibly be in, a one-gap, attack-style front that maximizes exactly the burst and explosiveness that make Thompson different from every other defensive tackle available in the late rounds. The Falcons' general manager Ian Cunningham said the team used resources from scouting to analytics to identify the right players. That is organizational language for, we did our homework and we believe in what we found. And in Thompson's case, what they found is a cautionary tale turned success story turned NFL draft pick, arriving in Atlanta with more chip on his shoulder than almost anyone else in the building. When Thompson got the call from the Falcons that he was being drafted, the emotion in his voice was visible to anyone who watched the clip. 6 years removed from nearly quitting the sport. 6 years of community colleges, mid-majors, Power 5 programs, new coaches, new schemes, new cities, new starts. And now, a professional football player. An Atlanta Falcon. A member of a defensive unit that just broke a nearly 30-year franchise record and is setting its sights on something even bigger in 2026. The NFL world has been put on notice. The Falcons are not playing around. James Pierce Jr. comes back for year 2 in Ulbrich's system. A year wiser, a year stronger, a year more dangerous than the already historic rookie who finished with 10.5 sacks. Jalen Walker returns with a full season of NFL experience under his belt, and whispers throughout the offseason have suggested the Falcons may expand his role significantly, giving him more opportunities to line up in different positions the way he did at Georgia under Kirby Smart. Xavier Watts, the rookie safety who picked off 5 passes in his first NFL season, is back and chasing more. Rook Orhororo, Brandon Dorless, Laquale London. The entire deep, talented, well-coached core returns. And now, slotting into that rotation, is Anterio Thompson, number 98 in Atlanta's new draft class. A 6'4", 310-pound defensive tackle with a 4.73 40-yard dash, 3 college block punts, and a story of resilience that should make every opponent think twice about what they're going to face when they line up against this Falcons front. The 2025 season showed the NFL what Atlanta's defense is capable of in year 1 of this system. The 2026 season, with continuity, growth, and fresh talent pouring into the mix, could be the year this defense truly announces itself as one of the elite units in professional football. Jesse Bates III said he wants the interception record to follow the sack record. Jeff Ulbrich signed a 3-year deal because the organization believes in where this is heading. And new head coach Kevin Stefanski, who spoke glowingly of Ulbrich's work and made it one of his first priorities to retain him, is building everything on the foundation of this defense. Anterio Thompson is not just a pick. He is a symbol. He is proof that this organization is not done adding hungry, explosive, motivated players to an already dangerous roster. He is proof that the Falcons scouting department is willing to look past the round number and find the talent hiding where nobody else is looking. He is proof that in Jeff Ulbrich's system, any player with elite athleticism and an attacking mentality has a chance to become something special. 31 teams passed on him. 1 team believed. Sound familiar? The NFL is on notice. The Atlanta Falcons, with their franchise record 57 sacks, their elite young pass rush, their new defensive chess pieces, and their latest under-the-radar addition in Anterio Thompson, are building something that goes far beyond one season. This is a defense with continuity, with purpose, with a coordinator who knows exactly how to manufacture chaos, and with players who are hungry to prove they belong on the biggest stage in American sports. The story of this defense is not finished. It is barely getting started. And in year 2 under Jeff Ulbrich, with the Terrell brothers commanding the secondary, with Pierce and Walker terrorizing quarterbacks off the edge, with Thompson bringing his 4.73 40 burst through gaps in the interior, with Perkins sealing potentially exploding back to the generational talent scouts saw in his freshman year at LSU. The Atlanta Falcons defense could be something this franchise has never produced before in its entire history. Something that doesn't just make the playoffs. Something that takes over the NFC. Something that makes the rest of the conference turn to each other and ask the same question every week. How do you stop this? The answer, if you've been paying attention to what Jeff Ulbrich and this team are building, is You probably can't. From a defense ranked second to last in sacks, to a franchise record of 57. From a forgotten system, to the most feared attacking front in the NFC. From a forgotten sixth-round pick who almost quit football in high school, to jersey number 98 in Atlanta. From a rebuild to a reload. The Falcons shocked the NFL with the Anterio Thompson move. But that is only the latest chapter in a story that is building towards something truly dangerous. Keep your eyes on Atlanta, because in 2026, this defense is coming for records, legacies, and championships. This video is based on publicly available reports, verified news sources, official statistics, on-record statements, draft analysis, and ongoing developments as of the time of production. Some information may be subject to change as new details emerge. This content is created purely for informational and entertainment purposes. We do not intend to defame, harm, or misrepresent any individual, organization, or institution. All statistics are sourced from publicly available NFL, PFF, and media records. Viewer discretion is advised.